Summit in Kigali in Rwanda.
Morocco withdrew from the continental body in 1984 when its predecessor, the Organization of African Unity, accepted the self-proclaimed Saharawi Arab Democratic Republic as a member state. The African Union is due to hold talks on South Sudan in a bid to seek a lasting solution to the ongoing conflict in the country.
In a meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, Morocco's Special Envoy Taib Fassifiri said the country wanted its membership to be reinstated without preconditions. Morocco annexed Western Sahara in 1975 when Rabat took it over from colonial power Spain. It is not clear if the announcement of the North African country's return to the African Union will be made during this week's summit in Kigali. South Sudan's conflict will top the agenda of the summit. On Friday night, East African Regional Bloc IGAD will meet the African Union High-Level Panel and leaders from the Sudan's People's Liberation Movement, SPLM, to discuss recent flare-ups in the East African nation.
The Peace and Security Council have been seized with the matter of South Sudan, and there are recommendations that come from the Peace and Security itself, where we belong to, but also from the Executive Council, which has been escalated to the heads.
Also on the agenda of the heads of state meeting, the election of a new chairperson of the African Union Commission, as well as 6 new commissioners. West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS wants the polls postponed to January to allow for a candidate with clout to be nominated.
It's always the case that when you have elections, you'll have campaigns, you'll have different views. But what is good about the AU is that we sit down and discuss all these issues that affect us.
The meeting is also an eye-opener on the deficiencies that the continent faces as it seeks to industrialize.
The gap is as much as 4.3 million engineers that Africa would need to be able to do that. The rate of production of engineers is in no way going to match that kind of rate of this kind of scale of gap that we have. So it's a serious problem.
The Agenda 2063 has to be integrated into the national planning processes and their outcomes.
Agenda 2063 lays out a development plan for the continent in a bid to leapfrog into an industrialized, more self-reliant continent. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kigali, Rwanda.
Well, let's cross now live to Sarah Kimani, who's in Kigali, to give us a wrap of what's been happening on day one at the summit, the AU summit taking place in Rwanda. Sarah, thanks for joining us. The summit is well underway. Give us an overview of what happened today.
Well, today what happened is that various commissioners of the African Union Commission were giving updates on what their commissions have been able to achieve. You've just had one there talking about the deficiencies that the continent faces as it seeks to industrialize, talking about the number of doctors that are needed, talking about engineers, all of those numbers running into millions. Tomorrow now is when we get into the summit proper. African heads of states who will be here will have a meeting, NEPAD heads of state summit. The summit on South Sudan has also been moved to tomorrow, where we expect the UN Secretary General. We also expect the United States Special Envoy for Africa and also the United States Special Envoy for South Sudan and Sudan to attend that meeting, which will discuss what to do now, considering 270 people died this week in South Sudan in renewed fighting. We understand that there is a possibility of them discussing the renewal of the mandate of the United Nations peacekeeping troops in South Sudan, and also changing the mandate from just a peacekeeping force to a combat force.
So security very much high on the agenda, I would imagine, at the summit, as you've been describing. What other issues are likely to come up at this gathering?
Apart from South Sudan, there's one interesting issue that everybody will be looking to see how it unfolds, and that is the application by Morocco to be readmitted into the African Union after a 32-year absence. Now, one of the things that they have done prior to coming here to Kigali is that they have been going around the country. A special envoy has visited at least 6 African countries, and unconfirmed reports actually indicate that the King of Morocco is already here in Rwanda seeking to continue with those negotiations. However, we understand that it will not be very easy for Morocco to just be readmitted. We spoke to the African Union Commission's deputy chairperson, Erastus Mwancha, and he says it will take a vote by all the African countries that are part of the African Union now, and only if majority vote yes, then can Morocco be readmitted. Our colleague Sophie Mokoena, the foreign news editor, has been speaking to some ministers here, one of them in particular, Zimbabwe's foreign affairs minister, who says categorically that Morocco should not be readmitted, saying that, and I quote him, any African country that is colonizing another African country should not be readmitted to the African Union. We'll also be expecting elections of the various commissioners and also the election of the chairperson of the African Union. As you might well know now, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the current chairperson, will be retiring after serving one term of 4 years.
I suppose the story will unfold in the coming days, but has Morocco indicated why they want to come back to the AU? And Western Sahara, I'm sure, will continue as a member of the body.
Yes, Western Sahara will continue as a full member of the body, according to Dr. Mwancha there, the deputy chairperson. And indeed, he says that African Union will continue pushing for a referendum for Western Sahara for self-determination, saying that will not stop even if Morocco is readmitted. We do not know why Morocco wants to rejoin the African Union. However, in a meeting with President Kenyatta, we understand he said that the envoy said that they want to be readmitted without any preconditions, and that, of course, is going to not be possible because a lot of African countries will bring up the issue of the Western Sahara region. So it's going to be a tough one for Morocco, I must admit.
Do we have any idea who's going to be the new chairperson of the AU?
Well, it is a tight race between Dr. Specioza Kazibwe of Uganda. There's also the Foreign Affairs Minister of Botswana, and we also have an entrant from Equatorial Guinea. However, ECOWAS, the West African Regional Bloc, has said that none of these three members has clout, the clout that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma has to be able to draw funds, to be able to draw interest from, Western nations that would be able to fund projects and development projects and activities that the African Union is doing. Take, for example, the AMISOM troops in Somalia, the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan, in the Central African Republic. They're saying they need somebody who will be able to mobilize funds and will be able to speak to the needs of the continent. And so what they're saying is that they want the elections to be postponed until January next year. When we spoke to the Foreign Affairs Minister for Rwanda and also the International Relations Minister for South Africa, all of them are saying there is a likelihood that the elections will take place. But we understand behind the doors there is a lot of lobbying to see that Dr. Zuma continues until January, and then in January in Addis Ababa, then there can be an election, probably when there are more candidates.
All right, Sarah, that's where we're going to leave it. That's our correspondent, Sarah Kimani, who's in Kigali in Rwanda. She was standing in front of the all-new Kigali Conference Center that was sparkling in those Rwandan national colors. We'll be